Hello, this is Jet Project. So right now we're here for a new segment we're starting here at Jet, where we interact with different types of people from different walks of life. So we're hoping to have more interactions with these people, get to know them more, talk to them, ask them questions.
We're kind of hoping that Jeff could play the role of like a window into their life. For example, people who aspire to be actors or directors or doctors or whatever.
So today we're gonna have a discussion with the Jet members, kind of getting to know about each other's lives. What was like a difficult point in your life? What was it? What were you going through? What got you through it? And was there something you held on to during that time? Was it a song? Was it a Bible verse? Was it a friend? What was it? Was it a drink? So
Yes.
so, Jay's smiling so hard when I said drink. But Jay, you're being recorded here, so just speak freely. Was there a time like that for you, and what was, and how'd you get through it?
For me, it was, I still remember it back in 2016. 2016 when my company wasn't doing well. It just kind of collapsed, So from there, I think all the way up till 2017, it wasn't really doing well. I think it was hard because financially, it's just really, just not having anything. It's just like, oh, shoot, like, what do I need to do? Up until that time, I was living in not a reality, but then more of imaginary world. Like, I felt like, oh, everything's just going to work out fine. Everything I did just worked out perfectly fine. Even with school situation, even with everything in life, it's just like, I had many failures, but it wasn't like major. Like during those times, I just didn't know what to do. Like I just did my best, but just didn't really work out. Like, I was just trying to run my race, but nothing was really working out. But eventually, after time has passed by, I realized that it was my time to actually learn. Like, for me to actually start from the bottom. Like know what it means to be a bottom. It took me a while. I think the time was mainly one thing.
I remember you told me that story about your business when we first met.
Yeah.
How much money did the company have? Like you almost sold it for like a few $1 million, right?
3 mil.
3 mil.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Right before I sold it.
And it did like something. Yeah, exactly. I remember you told me that. You were like, "Dude, I almost made 3 mil, and then the company fell."
Then I realized I was like, "Shit, life isn't about money."
All right, Esther, what was like a hard time for you, and how did you get through it?
Sophomore year of high school was probably the hardest. Sophomore year of high school was like the first year that I experienced like my first like major panic attack. A huge difficulty that I've definitely had for years, and I still face it today, is like definitely like confidence and self-esteem and like insecurities and stuff like that, because I didn't realize how unhealthy the people around, like the relationships and friendships that I had were. I didn't realize how toxic and unhealthy they were until a few years ago, when I started to really like reflect on my life and like really think about it. Even if someone says something to me, like I would try to play it off, because my personality is like, I try to think about it from that other person's perspective. Like I don't want to embarrass that other person in front of someone else. So like even if they say something that kind of crosses the line, I would still take it and laugh it off. But like I didn't realize that all those comments had slowly, gradually throughout the years really like kind of weighed down on me, I guess. I feel like a lot of girls go through that. Yeah, freshman year of college was definitely the year where it was my spiritual turning point. It was my turning point in my faith. And from then on, I started to understand what it means to find my value, my priorities, my worth as a person in the gospel, like in Christ. Like rather than trying to determine my worth like in the confines of social norms and whatever. Like I learned what the love of God means and all that stuff, It's still a work in progress, to be completely honest. I do still have like moments where I have major anxiety when I compare myself to other people based on social standards and worldly standards. But like in the end, yeah.
The hardest time for me was definitely leaving my home last year. Yeah.
First word. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I honestly had like an easy breezy life like my entire life. Like And sometimes I still miss that. So when I was 19, I got into network marketing, and then literally right after I got into it, like I like got everything done so fast. I got like my license like fast. I got like my first sale within 2 weeks. But like I started at such a young age, I thought to myself like, this is gonna be my life, you know, like I'm so excited. I'm gonna serve as like an elder for the church. I'm gonna do this for 5 more years, get into like real estate, make bank, you know, and all that stuff. I had like this like whole plan set out for myself. After like 2 years, I had recruited like 40 people under me. Especially at like 19, that's like kind of like a pretty good deal. That's when my pastor called me. It was like the summer of 2018, and he was like, "Hey, listen, I think God's calling you into ministry." He had never talked to me about this business at all. All right, I was selling life insurance, right? He had never talked to me at all about this ever for the past 2.5 years or so. And suddenly he just goes, "You're doing a pyramid scheme. I want you to quit it." And I was like, and of course, you know, when people do multi-level marketing, they always go, "It's not a pyramid scheme. It's not a pyramid scheme. It's just I can recruit people, you know, all that stuff." But he calls me again like 2 months later, and he goes, "You're gonna go to the seminary that I know in California. You're gonna go in 4 months." At that point, I really was just like, I was shocked. I was so shocked. That moment was so difficult for me. And I genuinely, I was so lost. This is like when I was like reading the Bible continuously, and I opened up to Genesis 12, verse 1-3. This like really helped me out this time. And this is when God's telling Abraham, "Go to the land that I will show you. Leave your father's household." I'm like, oh my gosh, you know?
This is for me.
And he says, "Go to the land that I will show you." How about Daniel goes next?
I know this is very 재수없어, but I've never had a hard time in life. I'm a very simple person. If I don't care, I'm just not gonna care about it.
You know why? Because of the sacrifices of his sister.
Hey, then that means he shouldn't have had a hard time either.
Dude, your sister did a lot for you.
I know, but she couldn't protect me from.
I think, like, if we were to have Yura here, like, she would probably talk a lot more about more hardships.
Yeah. She definitely went through more than me. The whole immigrant family thing. Oh yeah, she definitely went through that. All right, then Bogyung, what about you?
Dude, I think it'd be so funny if she's talking really seriously and she's about to cry, but her mom comes and says, "Bogyung, 여기 빨래."
I don't know. My life has been pretty dynamic. I didn't really like to show like my weak side or like cry in front of people. It was the end of freshman year, spring quarter. Like one day I came back and in my dorm, like I literally just passed out in front of the bathroom. I don't know how long I was gone for, but when I woke up, I saw my roommates and they were like, "Yo, wake up, wake up, wake up." Ever since that day, for about 3-4 months, like the maximum number of times I passed out in one day was like 30 times. I was admitted for a whole week once, and they did all kinds of tests, but they couldn't figure anything out. No one knew what it was. And then they put me on a medication called Keppra. The side effects of that medication is depression. Up until then, I never thought that I'd be depressed in my life. I always thought that depression was something that I would only see in the movies. It hit me really hard. And there was this one time where it was like 2 a.m. I packed up my shit and I left the house, and I guess I turned my phone off. I got to like this cafe. I was just sitting there, and then I checked my phone and I had 50 missed calls from my mom. And she called me and she was like, "Where are you?" That's when I realized, I was like, oh shit, I left the house without telling my mom. That went on for like 3-4 months. First time I went back to church, it was an outdoor worship. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, "I need to go. I really want to go." And so we went. After we started giving praise that day and giving worship that day, when I came back, the number of times I passed out shrunk by like half. That's kind of how it ended. And then slowly, like the number of times I passed out kind of shrunk. That's when I like really realized that like God was still holding on to me. He had never let go of me. He was constantly like screaming out to me. He was constantly reaching out to me, but I was the one turning away from him.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
What? Is that so weird to say that?
Thank you for sharing.
No.
It's so like formal. As I mentioned earlier, like Bogyung and I have a lot of similarities, and when she was talking about how she would like act stronger, so that like I completely related with that, because that's what I do. I do that all the time. My pride is so strong and too strong, right? And I'm like really stubborn, right? So no matter what happens, like I'm trying to hide my weaknesses. That's why for the longest time I thought not having a dad was like the biggest weakness. We still live in an age where people believe that that's a huge weakness, right? So like when I saw Pogyam, like I kind of was able to see past that and see like 얘도 조금 숨기는 게 있는 거구나. Like it just made me realize that.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining us this week, and hopefully next week we'll actually have someone to interact with and kind of get to know.